Hey everyone, Mr. Toast here. Just a quick thank you from Mikey and myself. We appreciate the support you have shown and are excited to be bringing back new episodes of the podcast. We hope you'll join the Discord link in the description below and enjoy the episode.
Keegan?
Mikey?
What the
You
what
work
the
here?
hell?
I didn't know you worked here.
I've worked at the same place since I was 16. I think I'm stuck there for life.
Ah, shit.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Mixed Media Podcast. Oh my god, it has been entirely too long. I told Keegan though, but to be fair, we took a 7-month hiatus, which is normally what a TV show does in between seasons. Network television normally has between 22 and 24 episodes. So I mean, we pretty much did a season, and then we took you know,
7-month break.
did what Andrew Lincoln does on The Walking Dead. He goes back to England for like 2 months, sees his kids. They're like, "Dad, you're still alive?" "Yeah, I gotta go back to America, kill zombies, dude. Like I'm making $3 million.
Yeah,
I really gotta go."
absolutely.
So we're talking about the Eli Roth Borderlands movie, right?
Something adjacent. I think it's they made a game after the movie.
Oh shit. Okay, right.
Yeah. Oddly enough, they made more games in the movie, despite the fact that the movie came first.
See, I thought that the movie was based on that character from Fortnite that they had in the item shop.
The one with the mask and the no shirt.
Yeah, the one with the mask and the no shirt, because he's in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, we are
uh,
talking about Borderlands 3, and Keegan is going to give kind of like a little rundown of the entire history of Borderlands before we get into
yeah.
this entry.
Believe it or not, 7 months time, we actually start taking notes now. We do notes for this shit. So just to kind of give a brief history on Borderlands and what it is, the original Borderlands was released in 2009. It was developed by Gearbox Software and published by 2K Games. It is widely regarded as the original looter shooter that would also go on to inspire other games like Destiny, The Division, stuff like that. Additionally, it has 3 sequels, being Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, and 3, with Borderlands 4 currently on the way, as well as 3 spin-off games, being Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and both the Tales from the Borderlands games.
You forgot the movie.
Yeah, we also, additionally, the unfortunate live-action adaptation directed by Eli Roth.
What a shit show that was. As somebody that loves that franchise, I saw that back in May. I'm just going to rip this Band-Aid off right now. That way I don't have to talk about it later. What a piece of shit that movie was. I mean, it's been like probably talked to death at this point now, but we're talking about Borderlands and man,
you can't
PG-13 Borderlands.
you can't talk about it now without at least mentioning that there's a movie, which we have been in discussions talking about doing a coverage of adaptations, like doing good adaptations and bad adaptations. It's something we have potentially in the pipeline. And kind of just to start real quick, just that adaptation, like
Yeah, very bad.
just a stamp of approval that is 100% a bad adaptation.
I was one of the poor sons of bitches. That movie made $10 million, and I was one of the poor unfortunate souls that contributed to that.
Yeah. On top of that, I think for me personally, I kind of felt like I knew it was doomed when they released the casting.
I did too. I still went to see it with some kind of hope, but no. No,
Yeah.
it's so bad.
Like the trailer was at least like okay looking, but everything I've heard is just it's a mess.
So to
But
kind of put us into like a perspective of where this game kind of takes place in the context, do you want to kind of set us up for where this game begins? I know you kind of talked about how
yeah.
this is
So
several entries in.
we are starting several entries in, not for any particular reason. It's just we played Borderlands 3 recently out of a choice, and we put enough time into it that we decided to do a full podcast episode on it. So to briefly cover, Borderlands 3 takes place 7 years after Borderlands 2. In the current events for the game, we are now going up against a cult known as the Children of the Vault, which is headed by the Calypso twins, Troy and what's her name? Um, I can't remember her name. It's gone from my head. What's her name? Uh,
That's gonna be something we'll
it
talk
sure
about later. Don't
is
worry about that.
Tyrene.
There's a re
Tyrene Calypso.
Tyrene, yes.
Um, so as the game begins here, we are now playing as the four new Vault Hunters, being Flack, Mose, um, Zane, and Amara. Um, they're joining up with the Crimson Raiders, which is now headed by Lilith, the new commander since Borderlands 2's story, which we'll not really get into all that much. We might discuss a little bit because there are some characters that are relevant that we need to kind of discuss for 3. Um, but that is kind of our starting point. We start on the planet of Pandora, which has been the main location for 2 of the main games, the pre-sequel taking place on the moon of Pandora, Elpis.
Um, for context, just in case anybody out there was curious, I'm not sure if anybody out there is curious. I played as Zane, and you played as
Mose.
Mose, right? That's right. Um, so do you want to? We kind of wanted to talk about what we wanted to get into the positives of the game first,
Yeah.
right? Before we get into the
Yeah.
negatives.
This is easily the most like kind of debated and argued Borderlands game in terms of like if it's genuinely good or if the story brings it down too much. Which I'd say from our experience, I would say that it's a good game. It just has a very unfortunate story.
Yeah, when we get into more of the negatives, I think we'll go into depth about why the story doesn't work
Yeah.
and kind of comparing it to the last couple of games and why those stories work versus why this one doesn't work as well. But booting up Borderlands 3, the first thing that you notice is that the movement has changed and that the gameplay has changed, and both for the better.
Yeah.
I mean, it is you could tell that it has been 7 years between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3, and even 5 years between Borderlands 5, right? Between pre-sequel and 3?
Um
2014,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
So it's been a while, and you could tell. The game definitely you could tell that it's been in development.
Yeah.
They have
They
been
they
trying.
cooked for sure.
They did. They spent a lot of time, like, perfecting the movement. The vaulting is great. I like the sliding mechanic. It looks better.
Yeah.
Um,
Overall,
2
just the way that the movement, like the movement and the gunplay specifically, feels so much more in depth, more mechanically involved in some way. It just feels more refined, more polished.
I agree, and when it comes to, like, the weapons, I like that you could switch the firing modes, and that's something that they've continued into the spin-off Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's really cool, and I think that some of the guns are super unique where you can have play styles that revolve around guns that play with you. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is there's this one gun that you can get, later on in the game, and Keegan's a nerd, so I'm sure he can
Yeah,
tell you what the name
there
of the
are
gun is.
quite a few of the TDR weapons have their alternate mode, or not alternate mode, but when you reload, instead of doing like your normal reload animation of taking out a magazine, putting in a new one, instead your character will throw them and they explode. But there are variants of those same guns where when you throw them, they will turn into little drones that'll fly around and shoot the rest of the magazine that they had available, or they'll land and walk on legs and run around shooting at people for you.
Yeah, and it just adds so much to the combat because it's a shooter. And
Yeah,
it doesn't add, like, any kind of melee combat, but it adds, like, a layer to the shooting combat that not a lot of games I feel like can do, and I feel like this game wasn't appreciated enough for that, because there are a lot of different things that you could do with the shooting combat in this game, and a lot of different ways that you can, build your character and kind of, use your abilities in that way. Like my clone is Zane. I'm gonna get a little nerdy here for a second. Watch out. I really like this one ability that I had that just like absolutely multiplied any kind of damage that I would do as soon as I switched places with my clone. There's just little things like that that just shake up the gameplay, and 2 had elements of that, but I just think that this builds that's what makes this a better sequel is or a great sequel is it does build off of a lot of things that 2 did.
Yeah,
The
it
only
also
thing
refines
oh,
a
yeah.
lot. Sorry to cut you off there, but
Oh, no, you're
I
fine.
kind of want to just talk about like a lot of the changes from Borderlands 2 to 3 specifically. There were some changes in the pre-sequel that didn't necessarily move over entirely, like the addition of laser weapons in the pre-sequel didn't necessarily carry over. There are some weapons that use lasers, but they aren't a specific category. Where there can be like SMGs and assault rifles that fire lasers, but they aren't considered a laser weapon. They still use your assault rifle ammo and stuff like that. But also kind of refining some of the other elements, as in Borderlands 2, the ultimate Vault Hunter mode, you basically were required to use the slag element to really even make playing ultimate Vault Hunter mode viable. Where that was removed in Borderlands 3, replaced with radiation as a new element, and it's not required in any way. It's if you want to use it or you find a weapon that has it, it can be still be effective, but it's not a requirement to play that mode.
Yeah, slag was one of the most annoying parts of Borderlands 2, the fact that you had to in the harder difficulties, you basically had to use you had to have a weapon in your inventory to coat the enemies in this substance before you would shoot them. It's like, if anybody's played It Takes Two, there's that game mode in there where there's the bees
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about. Your
yeah, yeah.
partner has to shoot them and coat them in the honey, and then you shoot them with the big gun and they,
Yep.
like, explode. That's basically what you had to do with every enemy through in Borderlands 2 in the late game, and I'm really glad that they removed that. I like the late game a lot more in 3 because it feels more optional, and
Yeah.
it also feels like you can tackle it at any time, and you can adjust the difficulty in any way, and you don't have to do 100 playthroughs to unlock every single difficulty.
Yeah. On top of that, it made it so that True Vault Hunter mode, which is your normal New Game Plus, isn't even required to play. It's more optional than anything because you can get to level 72, and with the addition of what they call Mayhem levels, you can basically experience the end game content without ever playing True Vault Hunter mode. Additionally,
I
I
don't
do think that the character building, like as we mentioned, is much more diverse here. Where Borderlands 2, there were a few characters. Gage specifically, the Necromancer, she had one of her skill trees which was completely useless. Even in normal mode, it's not as good as her other options. Where basically playing as the Necromancer, you spec into Anarchy, and that's your build for the entire time that you play as the Necromancer. Whereas 3, every character by default has 3 skill trees, but there is a DLC where you get a 4th skill tree that you can use. Not all of them are great, but the fact that you have that option that makes your character even more diverse is great, and also each skill tree feels like it's actually worth using for the most part.
I agree, and, another thing too that, I think that 3 just I think it misses out on, and I just kinda thought of this while we were talking about the characters. It was a little detail in 2 that I liked, and some people online have complained about it, but I kinda liked it. There are 4 achievements not really tied to, like, getting like, super, super far with characters, but there are 4 achievements in Borderlands 2 that were tied to playing each of the characters and getting to a certain point, and I kinda wish that Borderlands 3 had something similar to that.
Yeah.
Um, at least maybe unlock, like, the action skill for each of them, because I don't really feel any motivation to try any other characters. I played through Zane, I liked the way Zane played, I finished it, we put, 80 plus hours into the game, and now I'm like, I don't know if I wanna play one of the other characters." I just don't have, like, the motivation to
Yeah.
to try it out.
That's a big thing. The only thing that sucked with some of those in Borderlands 2 was like the one for Zero was for staying in his deception mode for like over 10 seconds or something like that, which the only way to do that is to spec into his red skill tree and get all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, that one was. I think it would be. I think that there's a way that they could do it. Maybe like kill like 150 enemies with each character or something like that, or unlock like get to level 5 with each character, something like that.
Yeah,
That's
like
not as.
make it so that it like you can kind of try and get my interest with the character and make me do another playthrough with them. I will say
Mhm.
that the Vault Hunters in this game are easily the most capable. There isn't one that is particularly stronger than another. Unlike some of the previous games where Borderlands 1 Lilith was easily the most powerful character in the game. Borderlands 2 Salvador was the most powerful character in the game. Where here in 3 is definitely a power scale difference with Moze and Zane specifically, from what I've read in the community, are definitely the most powerful, but it's not by that much.
I don't know of very much about the other two characters, but I would say that the characters in 3 aren't as interesting as the characters are in 2 when you're playing as them. I don't think they're interesting in really any of them when you're playing as them because you're kinda just blank slates through you have,
Yeah,
like, voice lines and whatever, but, like, there
that's kind of the big thing with how Borderlands kind of works, where like the character that you play as isn't really a character until a sequel when they are a character.
Yeah, because for context, for those of you that, if you haven't played any of the Borderlands games or if you've only played a couple of them, in the first game, the Vault Hunters are Brock, Lilith,
Brick,
Mordecai, Lilith,
Roland.
Roland, thank you. And in the second game, they're all like very important characters that kind of run the story, and the Vault Hunters are all new characters. And then in 3, there's a couple of them left, and then you have the Vault Hunters from 2 that are helping running thing. They
Yeah.
have their own DLCs and things like that. And it's cool the way that they do that and bring the characters back. But like a couple of the characters like from 3 that what's the one
Amara.
Amara? I don't really I don't know, like, anything about Amara, and, like, if she shows up at 4, I'm gonna be like, "Okay."
Amara's actually kind of dislikable in my opinion. A lot of her voice lines are very arrogant. Like she acts like she's all that pretty much in a lot of her dialogue.
I liked, actually, I kinda liked your character's voice lines, and I like Zane's because he's just kind of like, what accent is that he
Irish.
has? Irish, yeah. He's got that Irish accent, and he's kind of a smart ass. I
Yeah.
kinda like that, and I like Moses' lines too.
Yeah. I like Moses lines a lot because they're very they can either be like they're usually very like dry humor kind of thing. Like one of the examples I'll give is during one of the DLCs, you have to like make an excuse to like leave like a party. And my favorite line that Mo says there is I actually have to run out, guys. Iron Bear needs bear juice. Iron Bear being her action skill, which is like a mech, like a pilotable mech.
Um, I'm trying to think. Okay, where are we at?
I mean, we've covered a lot of the positives already. We can also diversify the manufacturers a little bit, which I think is actually a big improvement over 2, where 2 does diversify the manufacturers from 1 a lot, but I like the additions that they do in 3, especially for Malawan weapons, where instead of just being locked to one element, you can now switch to a second element. Some legendary weapons even having the elements cycle between each other, like they're imbued in the same shot. Um, and then you have TDR, which I originally in Borderlands 2 hated TDR weapons. They just use your ammo, and the explosion isn't even really all that much damage in later game playthroughs. But the addition of having them, do different things where they can run around on legs or fly around and shoot at enemies for you, as well as still being able to throw them for the explosion is nice, especially because there are skills for some of the characters that increase the explosive splash damage on some of your characters. So that as well. The only one that I would say there were three that I would say do not evolve enough. That being Hyperion, where the only addition is that when you aim down sight, it now has a forward-facing shield, kind of like Gibraltar from Apex Legends, if anybody knows that character specifically. Jacob's weapons, which still have their increased critical hit damage as opposed to the other weapons. Now the only addition is when you land a critical hit, the bullet will ricochet to another enemy, which is a nice, like it's nice and it's very satisfying because it does make an audible sound effect in game when that happens. But it's not enough of a bonus for it to really be worth it. And lastly, being Torg. Torg weapons fire Java Jet rockets instead of regular bullets, so they fly slower, so you have to lead your shot. The addition that they changed in Borderlands 3 is that they have sticky rounds that will land on the enemy, and then when you reload or switch your weapons, the micro munitions will explode on the enemy. Originally, when the game came out, and after a few updates, it was great. It still functioned really well. But where the sticky rounds are now, it's not worth using them. They got nerfed so hard that they just suck now. And that's basically the only thing I can really cover on the manufacturers. But the things that they diversify with the others are still great.
I agree. I like the vastness of the weapon choices.
Yeah,
This is we'll talk about it when we get to the achievements, but this is the first time in a Borderlands game that I paid attention to the weapons manufacturing on each of the guns,
yep,
and we'll talk about why that is. But there is a lot of he's absolutely right. There's a lot of variety to it, and it for it being a looter shooter, they get that part right. The
yeah.
guns are a big part of it. That's the loot and the shoot is
Yeah,
the
I would
guns and the
say
shield.
that is the thing that Borderlands has gotten right in every iteration is that the guns work perfectly. They all feel right. They all feel good. I especially love the sound design in 3 as well. The guns sound much more punchy. They like like not even just the gunshots themselves, but the way that the guns sound when you reload them, the sound of your magazine being inside the gun or pulling back at the charging handle all sound very crisp, very well designed in terms of the audio.
And shout out to a Gearbox for the PS5 version having the adaptive triggers, even though it came out in 2019. I
Yep.
appreciate you going back and doing that. I think it was free. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I paid for that, like the upgrade. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I got it for free, which was very chill.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any other positives other than some of the story positives that we'll talk about,
Yeah.
like for the side stuff. But
Additionally, the do we want to bridge the DLC here before we go into the negative, or do you want to hold off?
I think we should go through. Let's go through all the base game, and then we'll get to the
Okay.
DLC. We'll get to everything post launch after. I
Yep.
think we need to. Chris Hardwick is in this.
Yeah. So I put down that little note there because I know that you haven't played Tales from the Borderlands yet, but he plays Vaughn in
Oh,
Borderlands 3. Yeah,
you put a note down.
I
Can
did.
you give me access to that?
I shared it with you already. Did it not go through?
I clicked on it and it was like I need requests. I didn't like we're in the middle of the thing.
Hold
It's
on.
fine.
Let me. The request no longer exists. Excuse me.
Oh wait, I'm in now. We're
Okay.
good.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I did put a note down. Specifically for Vaughn's character, who, for anybody that played Tales from the Borderlands, which was developed originally by Telltale, before they were demised. But he plays a character in Tales from the Borderlands that is very likable, and he kind of plays as a very good kind of supporting role throughout that story. And in Borderlands 3, they absolutely ruined his character, where he went from being this very supportive friend that used to be a company man he now just runs around wearing a cape and underwear and screaming about bandit life. It is an atrocity.
Now let me ask you this because I haven't. We've talked about this. I need to play Tales of the Borderlands. I haven't yet. Is he still voiced by Chris Hardwick in Tales
Yes.
from the Borderlands?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, see, that's surprising to me because Chris Hardwick is more like Fawn and I mean that's like how he is, like kind of runny and I don't know. He is a very odd character, and I
Yeah.
guess for someone who hasn't played Tales from the Borderlands, having him be here, I'm like, who is this dude in underwear and a cape running around like
Yeah.
telling
And
me
the only other time that you see him is in the Borderlands 2 DLC that they added like 2 or 3 months before Borderlands 3 released, which was kind of to fill in a little gap in the story to explain why Lilith is now the commander of the Crimson Raiders, and kind of give some wrap up for some characters that were in Tales from the Borderlands that had some story events happen around them. So
I also have a weird complaint about the story and a decision that they did that kind of is between this and 2, and it's a DLC that they released for 2 right
okay.
before this came out. I don't understand why that was released for 2, why that wasn't released as, like, some kind of, like, a prologue DLC or something for this
You
so
talking
more
about the
people could
Commander Lilith DLC? Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about that, and I had mentioned, oh my god, I had mentioned something from that DLC to you, and you hadn't played it, and you were like, "What are you talking
No,
about?"
I
I'm like,
remembered after, because like I only played through that DLC one time before Borderlands
"Okay, that's right."
3 came out. So like you were referencing, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then like you're like, oh, it's from that shitty DLC from the end of Borderlands 2. I was like, oh, I know the one you're talking about now. Which in fairness, that DLC is okay, but it isn't
It's
necessary.
it's good, but I think it should have been something for 3 or there
Like
I don't know,
the
it
way
is
that they kind of did the that standalone version of the Tiny Tina DLC from Borderlands 2 to because that was they originally released that as a standalone experience because they were releasing Tiny Tina's Wonderlands to kind of be like this is what the world is so that people going into Wonderlands would know what they were getting into.
mhm.
I feel like they should have done that for 2 though. Like for that DLC specifically, is that should have just been a standalone thing. And the worst thing about it was that it was free at launch for the first like month or two, and then after that you had to pay like 10 or 15 bucks to get it if you didn't get it when it was free.
Y Yeah, I got it on sale when it went down to 5, but yeah, that's so stupid, especially if you already have the season pass for 2.
Yeah, that's the thing too with we're kind of dogging on Borderlands 2 at the moment for
A
but
little bit.
Borderlands 2 had a lot of unnecessary DLC content. A lot. Like the 2 major level cap increases for to get to level 61 and then to get to level 72, which were both like $10 a piece, which is like what? $10 for more levels is so that's an atrocity. Borderlands 3, fortunately, they changed that where they did the level increases for free. However, they did it 3 levels at a time. So like it first dropped level 50 was the cap, then it was 53, then it was 56, then it was 15. Like what are you doing? Because it would
I
get to
didn't
the
know
point,
that.
yeah, it would get to the point where you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go farm for the gear I want, and then here's a 3 level increase. Now I have to go farm for new gear in my end game.
I did not that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I hope that when they do Borderlands 4, they just do the level cap increases at the way that Borderlands 2 did it, but make it free. So 11 levels here, 11 levels later.
And can I just say, I know we're gonna get to the DLC later, but if you have a season pass for a game, you don't release a second fucking season pass. That's not how that works. Season pass. Season pass. That gets you all of the content post-launch. There is no season pass 2. That is such bullshit. I am so sick of that. That's a trend that has started in the
Yep.
last few years with like Ubisoft and Borderlands now, because they had it with fucking God damn it. Help me out here. The big Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Well, yeah,
Remember
yeah, yeah.
they had their season pass, and then they were like, boom, second season pass, Ragnarok, more deal. Like, what do
But
you mean a second season pass? The first game plus season pass was $130. What do you
yeah,
mean I have to pay for a second season pass? And it's 60?
yeah.
Sorry.
And just to put a cherry on top, Valhalla isn't that good. Personally, I don't really like the RPG games, but Valhalla was not as good as Odyssey, and I hate Odyssey.
Yeah, it's so dumb, and it's the same with this. And the season pass too for Borderlands, I bought it. Not worth it. Even on sale, it wasn't entirely worth it. There's just not a lot of content with season pass too.
Yeah,
Like it's mainly like deleted scenes
yeah.
and like
There's So the
bloopers.
only things you get with Season Pass 2 are you get the director's cut and the designer's cut content. The director's cut being some deleted scenes and working concepts and some of the development stuff that you get to watch like clips of. Um, which if you're a normal person, realistically, if you wanted to see that, you watch it on YouTube because somebody else paid $10 for it and not you.
Yeah,
But additionally, on top of that, the designer's cut is just cosmetics, as far as I'm aware. I don't think I think that also includes the arms race mode, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. And then it also includes that homunculus, the invincible or whatever his name is, and the
Yeah.
podcast, right?
Yep.
The podcast
Yeah.
is in the director's cut.
Ava's podcast, which is mysteriously.
I actually do. We're getting
I
way ahead of ourselves. I
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
podcast.
This is why we did the notes so that if we sidetracked, we could get back on track.
I just
Uh,
accidentally turned on my phone and opened YouTube Shorts. My bad.
okay, so we were talking story. We
Oh
can we
God.
can
Let's go back to the DLC.
we have to talk about it.
I
Uh
know.
so here's what I'm thinking with this game, specifically this game's story, right? So mild spoilers, actually pretty heavy spoilers for the end of Borderlands the pre-sequel,
Okay.
where at the end of that game there's a cutscene where a Iridian like creature, I don't know exactly what you'd call it, basically is like, there's a war coming, you need to be ready. And then Borderlands 3 happens and there is no war. That war doesn't happen. So I think that 3 was more so a game to kind of give us more lore and backstory on what sirens are and like how sirens work within the universe. And then with Borderlands 4, we're either going to see that war or we're going to get like the next step to it.
Okay, so going into this game, I started playing it for the first time when it came out. Before we get into the discussion around plot details and anything like that, and I paid $100 and whatever. I can't. Was it the $100 or 110 for the gold edition with the steelbook? Do you remember?
I want to say it was 120.
Oh, okay, it was more than I thought. But I got it in launch night, and I played it, and I played up until maybe the fifth or sixth mission, and I never touched it again until me and Keegan picked it back up this past summer. The story is just, even for a franchise like Borderlands, where the stories are never anything groundbreaking, they're always pretty simple, carried more by the dialogue and the characters, more so than the plot points. This
Yeah.
one sucks. Even in
Yeah.
comparison to those, it sucks.
Where Borderlands 1 barely had a story. The story for Borderlands 1 was, there's a vault, you're a vault hunter, go find the vault. That was it. That was the whole story. And then you found the vault at the end of the game. And then Borderlands 2 got much more involved with Handsome Jack and a whole plot there. The pre-sequel was Handsome Jack's origin story, and then 3 starts and it's an entirely different approach. We don't understand how the Children of the Vault got as powerful and as big as they are. Um, it just doesn't make any sense. And then additionally, on top of that, in terms of what the story says and tells, it doesn't tell anything. The story feels very inconsequential, except for the last 2 minutes of the game with the god awful ending.
Um, there was a couple moments in the story that I was like, okay, that's not bad, you know, like mainly whenever like certain characters from Borderlands, the Borderlands past would show up, but they just picked the weirdest fucking characters to lead the show this time. I
Yeah,
mean, bizarre side characters to lead the show, and it's confusing
yeah,
to say the least, and doesn't do anything for the story. Borderlands has always had cringy humor. It's always had toilet humor. I mean, it's "I'm the conductor of the poop train" is like one of the most famous lines from the second game. It's toilet humor.
yeah. There's toilet humor for a lot of it, but then I think Borderlands 2 kind of mastered walking that tightrope where it was very like jokey and goofy with some of the toilet humor here and there, but when it needed to be serious, it did it very well.
Yes, I agree, and I think this one just a lot of the humor in the main story. In the main story, I want to preface that doesn't hit. And when I mean, the humor in the main story, just like it's so, I don't know what was going on with the writing in the main story, but like, I would say at least half of the side quests. What are there, like 70 in the base game? 70 side
There's
quests,
quite a
roughly?
few. I don't know the exact number, but there are a lot. I will say they did change writers after 2 in the pre-sequel. The 2 in the pre-sequel being written by Anthony Birch. They have 3 writers on Borderlands 3. I don't remember any of their names. I do know one of them went on to help write Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and that's all I know.
Um, I would say, I don't know if you'd agree with me on this, but I would say at least half of the side quests have humor that lands. To some degree,
Yeah,
or have some kind of an impact on you that actually makes the side quest feel like doing.
yeah.
Like,
I would
there
say there are a handful of side quests where the humor hits, or it's enough of a break from the god awful dialogue and story of the main game. It's enough of a distraction that it can be kind of funny. Like so I'm gonna reference 2 different side quests. One that I think works really well, and one that I think is terrible.
okay.
So there's a mission in Skywall 27 where you meet a guy that is doing he's been spying on Malawan and the COV, who have teamed up forces to try and take down Atlas and get to the vault before everybody else. His name is Goner Malegis, because he is missing his legs, and it is genuinely like he just keeps referencing the fact that he doesn't have legs in his dialogue, and it's hilarious. um and plus you get a little bit more insight into the Malawan and COV's partnership and how that dynamic is working. And then we have another mission on Promethea from Lorelei, who is Reese's right hand man essentially, and she has a quest where she's like, "Hey, I need you to go get me coffee," and it is such a terrible side mission because all she does is scream and complain because she doesn't have coffee, and that's it. You do it's like a 7 or 8 step quest where you basically go turn the power on for a barista bot, and then you have to go and get a mug for the barista bot to fill it up. To get the mug, you have to kill an enemy that has the mug. Then you get the mug. And then the guy that owned the mug comes back and is like, "That's my mug, we're fighting now." You have to kill him, then you get the coffee, and then you have to drive it all the way to Lorelei, and the entire time it is just so blatantly stupid. And it is the epitome of every single time that the main story has humor. It is so similar to how that functions, where it's just like, this is so, it's not clicking because I don't care. It's not written well enough for me to be invested here.
Yeah, you've got those like really humorous side quests like that, and then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got these side quests that Keegan's like, "Oh, hey, Mike, let's do this side quest over here," and then it rips my fucking heart out, and Keegan just looks over at me and he's like, how do you feel?"
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like, hey, so this is a sad side mission, and he's like, huh? And I'm like, you'll
Well,
see, you'll see.
what was the one with the picnic? You should reference that one. You
Yeah,
probably remember it better than me. You played it a couple
yeah.
times.
So in the first DLC, which is Miss Moxie's heist of the handsome jackpot, you encounter this malfunctioning robot. He's a loader bot from Hyperion, and basically he tasks you with finding picnic supplies. So you go, you find a basket, a blanket, all those kinds of stuff. And then he's like, awesome, let's go have a picnic. You go to the location, set up all the picnic stuff. He sits down and he says, I am malfunctioning and I don't have much time left. I wanted to give my heart to you. And then after that, he says, I had a good day. And then he fucking dies right then and there.
Yeah, that again, they cooked on a lot of the side quests. They
Yeah, and
really
it's
did.
such a like goofy like setup. It's like, oh, we're gonna have a picnic with a robot. That's goofy, that's fun, and then it ripped your fucking heart out in front of you.
That's a pretty badass side quest.
That's what I'm
Welcome
saying.
in.
How you doing, Gavin? Good to see you.
Uh, I guess I don't even know if I want to talk anymore about like I'm trying to think of like specific points in the story to like talk about, but like a lot of the things that like happen in the story just are so out of left field, especially towards the middle to end of the game. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie to anybody. I muted the game at one point during the main story when we were playing it, and I just played music because
yep.
it was just so annoying.
I have two plot points I want to talk about specifically. So as I mentioned before, the main story here is mostly just trying to set up the lore and tell us a lot about sirens specifically. And we encounter Maya, who was a vault hunter in Borderlands 2, and a lot of people's favorite character to play as in that game. She comes back, and basically you do 2 or 3 main story missions, and then she fucking dies. And it's all just an elaborate way for this new side character, who's a 13-year-old girl named Ava, to get Maya's powers. Uh, and while I understand that they wanted to explain how sirens and everything worked, reintroducing a lot of people's favorite characters and then killing them is that's just fucked up.
It is.
It's like, imagine if you were watching like your favorite movie, it gets a sequel, your favorite character shows up and they just fucking shoot him in the face.
Hey, that happened with the
Oh
the one
Lord.
thing I will say real quick about Maya, and her demise, and we'll talk about this more, there is a DLC that softens the blow
Yeah.
and makes it
Fortunately.
okay. Yeah, there is a
I don't
DLC
know if
that
I'd say it
softens
makes it
that
okay.
blow.
It makes it easier to handle.
It does, but it gives her character some resolution,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say. More like something that she actually deserves.
She kind of force ghosts almost. Not
Kind of in a
necessarily, but
way.
kind of.
Yeah.
Um but anyway, the other moment that I kind of wanted to talk about was in the, I would say it's probably the later half of the second act. You're on a planet called Eden 6 doing a lot of missions for Wainwright Jacobs, who we will talk a little bit more about when we get to the DLC section, but just know for now that he is the inheritor of the Jacobs Corporation, which is another one of the major manufacturers for weapons. Um, but we kind of get to this point in the story where Troy and Tyrene Calypso are kind of clashing. After Maya was killed, Troy gained her abilities, which was phase lock. Basically, she could lift things and lock the person in place. Troy inherits that ability after he kills Maya. So in that moment, Troy begins to have a little bit more agency, where originally Tyrene kind of sees him as like a leech, like he just survives off of her existing. And in the moment when he finally gets some of that agency, they start to kind of plant the seeds of this idea of maybe Troy defecting and betraying Tyrene in the end of the game. However, that never happens. It's a plot point that they start planting the seeds for, and then they just they just pull the fucking weeds out. They don't let the roots take place. Um, which I think would have been a very interesting twist for the story. That moment that you get to what you believe is the Great Vault, and you fight Troy. Imagine if in that moment, instead of Troy dying, he kills Tyrene and becomes more powerful than her. That would have been such a great twist, but it doesn't happen. He just dies. Tyrene's like, damn, that sucks. I'm out.
And can I just say also something about that kind of what you said, it made me think about this. This game makes sirens really fucking confusing,
Yeah,
and how sirens work.
in its
I don't
attempt
understand it now.
in its attempt to clarify, it made it a little bit more confusing. So there are collectibles throughout the base game planets and worlds where there are these Iridian writings. Um, the only time that you are able to actually decipher these readings or these writings is after you do the final vault. And at the end of the game, you get this device that lets you decipher the writings, and you can listen to audio recordings of Nereid, who was a siren thousands of years ago. And if you go around, I believe there are what, 18 of them, something like that,
18 to 25, somewhere in that
somewhere in that
range.
range. If you get all of them, she kind of explains the lore behind sirens and the way that there are always 6 sirens in the universe, yada yada. Sirens can choose who they want their powers to go to when they die, or let somebody random take them. Um, sort of, sort of like Titan users in AOT, if you think about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. But then we get left with the final recording where we get a warning that we must never find the 7th siren.
Probably hinting at something in 4, I'd assume.
Yeah. That's a big thing. We've seen the trailer for 4 now. At,
Trailer.
yeah, teaser. So essentially at the
Saving
end
their ass.
at the end of Borderlands 3, um it turns out that Elpis, Pandora's moon, was the key to open the Great Vault. However, Lilith uses her powers to send the moon away, teleports it away from Pandora. And that teaser trailer that we got for Borderlands 4 is the moon of Elpis crashing into a veil over a planet that's been secret for who knows how long. That's what we got so far. So it seems as though they are planting the seeds to do something more. Hopefully it comes to fruition. A lot of people have been saying that Borderlands 4 is make it or break it for the franchise.
Yeah, I would say so, because Tiny Tina, I mean, it's sold okay, but the DLC, from what you've told me and what I saw today, heard the DLC for Tiny Tina isn't great.
I haven't played it. I still haven't finished the main game of Wonderlands. I've gotten to like level 40 or so, and I haven't progressed any further than that. Like I
Next podcast.
haven't finished the, yeah, so maybe I haven't finished the main story for it yet. But from what I played, it plays a lot like 3 does, with some different changes here and there. It's fun, but it is very different.
I like the voice acting in it a lot.
Yeah, they got All Might.
I meant Andy Samberg.
Yeah, that's true too. But one of the you can make your player character's voice sound like All Might.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he has an
Huh.
Irish accent though, so it's a little different.
Do you want to talk about the new planets real quick before? Um,
Yeah,
I don't think we really touched on that too much.
yeah. So, um, as mentioned before, Borderlands 1 and 2 take place on Pandora, and pre-sequel takes place on the moon. For Borderlands 3, they went with a more galaxy traveling journey. So it starts out on Pandora, with you meeting the Crimson Raiders and meeting up with Lilith for the first time. After that, it progresses to where you get on a ship titled Sanctuary 3, which is in reference to the city of Sanctuary from Borderlands 2. So Sanctuary 3 allows us to travel across the galaxy, to our first planet of Promethea, where we're basically going to discover more vaults than previous vault hunters have explored. So Borderlands 1, 2, and the pre-sequel, you only open one vault in the main game, whereas for Borderlands 3, you open 4 vaults in the entire story across 4 different planets. So starting out with Promethea being the first, Eden 6 being the second, and then 2 of them being on Pandora.
Let me just say this because I was just thinking about this. The pre-sequel had really cool like gravity and concepts with
Yeah.
oxygen, and some people found it annoying. Not one fucking planet used that.
The only time it was used was on Promethea in Skywell 27, which is an asteroid field, and it has low gravity, but it doesn't use like the Oz kits that were in the pre-sequel.
Yeah, I thought it would have been cool to maybe bring them back for like a few missions on a planet or something, because it just doesn't make sense for every planet to have a breathable atmosphere.
Yeah, especially an asteroid field to have a breathable atmosphere. That doesn't make any sense. But
And I know a lot of people found the Oz kits in the pre-sequel to be annoying and something, but I'm not saying they should have brought them back for the whole game, but you're in fucking space.
I
You're
think
traveling the galaxy.
it kind of actually added a little bit with the Oz kits and the pre-sequel. There was more movement availability, like not like 3 where it's like climbing and sliding and stuff, but using the Oz kits to do like a big double jump in low gravity was very fun. Very cool idea. Plus, it added the idea of the butt stomp where you could slam down on enemies, which makes an appearance in Borderlands 3, but it's not nearly as effective as it was in the pre-sequel.
Not unless you have like the right builds or artifacts to
Yeah,
kind of beef it up.
artifacts affect all of that.
That's a new thing too in 3 are the artifacts,
Yeah,
which kind of add different modifiers to your character in a way. There was
yeah,
something similar in 2, wasn't there?
yeah. There were artifacts in 2, but they weren't as involved as they were in 3. Where artifacts in 3 can kind of change a lot of aspects of your build, like what you're like imbuing your melee with different uh elemental effects, where 2 was basically just like a here's a raw stat boost, like increase to how much ammo you can have or increase to melee damage, so it's a little
And
different.
we were kind of talking about this a little bit earlier too, but for as much of the game that takes place on Pandora, Pandora does not feel important at all to the story,
It
in my
only feels
opinion.
important in that last hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. I'd say hour.
Yeah.
You basically get to a point where you meet Typhon de Leon, who is the first vault hunter on the planet of Necrotafeo, where he basically conceived his children, the Calypso twins. Spoilers, plot twist. Uh, and then as soon as you uncover that secret, he dies. Way to go, Gearbox! Great story. um,
All right.
I just
I
Jesus Christ, this story is an absolute mess. And the reason that we wanted to start out with so many positives is because the dialogue and the story in this game are so it just doesn't land. None of it lands. The
It
only
does.
the only thing that I can really think lands a little bit are some of those side missions, as we mentioned before.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of the side missions were written well. I think that especially in the DLC, there were a lot of interesting side missions, which were, thank God, we're about to the DLC, which for a lot of people, ourselves, I would say included, are the
The highlight,
saving
the
grace.
saving
Yeah,
grace, and the highlight of the game.
yeah, which is weird because I anymore people bitch and gripe about DLC for games. I think that the DLC for this is 100 times better than the base game.
Yeah,
I had more fun with each of the expansions than I did with any of the main game, except maybe a few of the
except
side
for Arms
missions.
Race.
Had to bring that up, didn't you?
I did.
You had to bring it up.
Listen,
uh,
so just to clarify really quick, as we did go, we both got 100% completion on the achievements or trophies for the game. And the
yes.
last one that well, the last one for me and the second to last one for you were extracting 100 pieces of gear from Arms Race, which sucked so bad. There's a reason that on the Steam version of the game, only 1.5% of players have it.
0.3% on PS5.
Wow, amazing.
0.3. It's yeah. We've got a list that we're gonna go through.
Yeah,
Of achievements that we're gonna bitch and gripe about it at the end, since we did put so much time into this game.
absolutely.
We thought it'd be kind of fun to do that. Do you want to discuss the DLCs in release order and then kind of do our?
Yeah, we did. We played the game, the expansions in release order, so I think it's best we just cover it that way.
Yeah. So let's start with Mad Moxie's casino heist.
Yep.
Uh, I we had immediately finished 100%ing the base game, right? Because we had done the name
Yeah, we
locations. We had
finished.
done
We didn't have to for the trophy or the achievement, but we went and did all of the crew challenges across the base game. Not necessary. There's no trophy or achievement for that. We just did it because we wanted to. But additionally, to 100% the game, we had to do all the side missions. So we had to go back and, finish some of the ones that we missed or wanted to come back to later. And then on top of that, we had the exploring and discovering all named locations across the galaxy of the base game. That's the first gripe for achievements and trophies that we want to talk about. Too many named locations. There's 3 per planet per base game. Is that right?
three what?
3 location based achievements per planet, or is it just one?
A lot of the time it's just one, but so like only 6 of the planets have location-based achievements, and then there's one for all of them that includes the other planets.
Yeah,
And then one of the DLCs has locations, but pretty much for the DLCs, you end up discovering all the name locations anyway,
yeah. Fortunately,
because you do the crew challenges and shit.
yeah.
Um,
Um, but yeah. So upon completion of the base game, we started the first DLC, being, as previously mentioned, Mad Moxie's heist of the Handsome Jackpot. Um, so a little bit of context to kind of set this one up. The Handsome Jackpot is a casino that was owned by Handsome Jack, who was the antagonist of Borderlands 2. Upon his death, his casino went into lockdown, and it's been under lockdown for 7 years. We are going in with Moxie's assistance to reclaim the casino for Moxie, as it was originally planned to be given to her, as far as I recall from the story. But our objective is to go in and claim the casino for ourselves.
I want to say right off the bat, initial reaction when we finished 100%ing this, and then when we got into this, immediately that opening cutscene, I was like, I felt the energy,
Yep.
and I felt like everything that 2 had come back. All of a sudden, it was this such an odd, weird thing, but it literally just felt like 2 again, and like the prequel, and like how the story felt in previous games. It had this energy to it, and this all of the side quests, pretty much maybe shy of 1 or 2 or 3 in the DLC, had great humor. I really like the side quests in Krieg's DLC. We'll talk about when we get to it
Yeah.
because they do something unique with them. Uh, but the side quests in Mad Moxie's are great. The story is great. It's a heist movie
Yeah, there's
essentially.
even a moment after you and all the like major players for the DLC are introduced, where you do a montage of gathering equipment for the heist. And it's great because you're just being like, because you know, in that moment, for a lot of games, it would be like, oh, go get this thing, go get that thing, go get this thing, and you have to travel there and do it all on your own. But it uses the cutscene to instantly move you across the map to get that part, and then it jump cuts you back to the storyboard of Howard, like to the heist like board. Like it goes full like GTA 5, like we got a heist board. Here's how the plan going down.
It is awesome. It is a really, really unique way to do the DLC. I love the they even do they kinda do the "You son of a bitch, I'm in."
Yeah. Plus, also bringing back Jack's doppelganger from the pre-sequel, Timothy, who
Yes.
oh my god, the way that he can switch, the voice actor for Handsome Jack and Timothy, the way that he can switch back and forth between those two characters is fucking amazing. Because he goes from this very egotistical, cocky guy as Jack, and then when he plays Timothy, he's so timid and very like soft spoken, and it's amazing that it like that range.
Yes, and it's the same voice, but just different tones and different, like, afflictions of his voice that he does for the character, and it
Yeah,
works really, really well, and it's really cool that in the DLC because you could hear Handsome Jack screaming over, like, the loudspeaker in the casino in his normal Borderlands 2 tone, and then you got Timothy, like you said, very timid and reserved,
yep.
and
And
it's the same voice.
we also get this great moment when he talks to Moxie for the first time in like 7 years, and and he immediately like he immediately loses his stance and becomes again very reserved, very timid, and he's like being spoken down to by Moxie. And the the line that I loved was when we were playing it as Moe's. She goes, "You folded like a lawn chair." It fucking it's such a good line.
Yes. Um, what do you, so in terms of the plot of of this DLC, what aspects of it would you like to discuss?
So I really like that we get a kind of um a resolution for Timothy. Um that's a big thing because in the pre-sequel, Timothy was my favorite Vault Hunter to play as. I loved those voice lines and everything in the pre-sequel. Just a overall great character. So getting more time with Timothy, now that he gets to be more of a character because he's not a Vault Hunter anymore, is huge.
Yes, and he was the one that I played as him for one of my playthroughs of the pre-sequel, and I played as the cowgirl for another playthrough of the pre-sequel, and I really liked her too. I can't remember her name.
Nisha.
Nisha, that's right. I really liked her as well. Um, I'm gonna jump on this just to because we're talking about this DLC, and it's a skipping ahead a little bit, but l- we have a list of trophies that I'm gonna go over later of a list of trophies that piss me off,
Yeah, as
and there's
mentioned, the
two.
location-based ones were already on the list.
Yes, um, there's 2 that come from this DLC, and they're both very RNG based, and they just pissed me off because it was just a waste of time, and then it just felt like that I didn't need to do, and that also, oddly enough, felt like 2. A waste of time sitting in an area, like, reloading. That was 2.
Yep.
Um, Keegan will tell you that, there's trophies in Borderlands 2 where you literally just have to reload Sanctuary over and over
Yep.
again to get a dude to spawn.
There are still people that have not gotten the tribute to a Vault Hunter achievement for Borderlands 2, which is for getting a piece of loot from Michael Mamaril.
Yeah, and it's like and what is the spawn rate of that? Isn't it like
Uh
5% chance or something like
I
that?
think it's a 11%. It's an odd
Is it
number. I
11%?
think it's 11%, but he can spawn in like 12 different locations across the map. So you have to check
That's
all
right.
12 of them and be like, is he here?
Every
No.
time.
Is he here? No. Is he here? No.
There's the Wandering Debt Collector, which is a trophy called Who Collects the Collector, where you have to kill the Wandering Debt Collector, and it I don't have a problem with trophies tied to killing specific things or bosses, but this dude only spawns in the specific location, and it's a rare like, he only spawns in, like, X amount of times, like, this percentage of the time, so you gotta watch a guide, go to the area, run through, see if he comes in, reload it, save
I
and quit,
uh
come back.
I will say I got really lucky and he spawned on my second attempt. So
I hate you so much.
you should have played with me. I got the high luck.
Dude, we did play together except for that, like, one part where you got that.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other one tied to it is also RNG. There are these chests, which is cool because it's a casino and it's a cool concept, but, to open the chest, you have to play a little mini game of blackjack. You have to hit a fucking 21 for the trophy. Any of you guys ever play blackjack? Eh, ho
You know it's
how
rigged
many times
too.
you hit a 21?
Straight up, literally, like I had we played once and I was like, I think you can only play 3 cards before it stops you from playing. So I hit it, I land on a 14. I'm like, hit 19, hit 20. It stopped because you can't do a third, another one. But it's like, as well, I'm at 20. I can't, if I hit, it's a fucking bust. There's no way I'm getting another ace.
Yeah, that oh my god, that really just irked me so bad, but
Yeah.
again, they're
And
just
it's,
those are
again,
just, like,
it's just
pet.
one of those ones that you have to save, quit, reload, and like try again and again and again and again until you finally get it. It's just annoying. Which that one, oddly enough, I think that one's less annoying than the debt collector because it's like at least you get to play a game of blackjack.
Yeah, and there's, like, a bunch of different chests that you could try out, and then that one I remember there was, like, 3 in an area that you could just, like, reload easier to get, like, multiple opportunities
Yeah,
to roll it. So, those 2, honestly, I'm looking at, like, the trophies that pissed me off, and I think that those 2 are, like, the ones
bottom of
that,
the list. They're not
an
that bad.
yeah, yeah, they annoyed me the least for sure, but they just happened to both be in the same DLC, so I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um
Overall though, this DLC is very enjoyable. I think it was a very good kind of, it was a glimpse at the future. Like you kind of played through Borderlands 3's main story and you're like, it kind of sucked, but then you start that DLC, you play through that DLC and it's like, okay, like this still has potential.
I agree. I agree, and
And
I
saying
think
that I
the
think
build
it's exceptional.
I agree. I really like this DLC, and it got me excited to continue playing the DLCs. Um, it really did, like, build this, like, fire of love in me for this game that I didn't have playing through the base game. Like, I 100%ed it, and I liked it a decent amount, but, like, I knew, from word of mouth that the DLC was gonna be good, and I was holding out hope, and I was not disappointed at all by this first expansion. Nor was I disappointed by the second one that we went into,
Yep,
um, which we went into Guns, Love, and Tentacles next,
that
right?
is correct.
That's right, that's what I thought. I absolutely loved this DLC.
Yeah.
I loved the story,
I love that
I loved the
opening
location.
intro as well with the that you get the main premise of this DLC is that it is the wedding of Wainwright Jacobs and Sir Hammerlock. Uh
It's the Borderlands 3 gay marriage DLC, as
that's
I
yeah,
call
exactly.
it.
But it starts out with this video. It's a wedding invitation from them to the planet of Xylorgos, which like they started off and it's like, yeah, it's just gonna be the wedding, it's gonna be super casual, and then it jumps cuts to this occult shit with fucking tentacle monsters.
And it makes so much sense too with the characters that are getting married. Sir Hammerlock, who, if you've played any of the Borderlands games, you know he's a freaking nut job. I mean, he had a DLC in 2, Hammerlock's Hunt, where you just go around hunting these, like, exotic creatures. He had one of my favorite side quests in 2, where you go and you have to rename the bully mongs. It is so stupid and it's such toilet humor, but I love that side quest so much. What one of the names that he comes up with, isn't it Boner Fart
Yeah, he
or
gets
something like that?
frustrated because he's like he talks to his publisher or his editor, and he says, "Yeah, we can't use Fervor. That's already trademarked." And he's like, "I'm pissed. Boner fart. That's it. Go kill some of them, I guess. I don't know."
Yeah, and it's so funny in that side quest because all of their names, like, of the creatures change each time he
Yep.
changes their names, so then they all appear as Boner Fart after a certain point. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great moment. The name game is the name of that quest, by the way, and it's like super early in the game too.
This this DLC, I also I will say that, from playing the main story, I was not, like, that interested in Wainwright Jacobs as a character just because a lot of the writing in the story for
Yeah,
pretty much
I will say
everything
that
is
he
just
is
not.
definitely a brighter spot in the main
He
story. Like
is. He is.
he's a very enjoyable character, but there's a lot of back and forth, like boring menial tasks that you have to do on Eden 6 for his part of the story. Like there's a whole section where you have to go onto a crashed ship that has iced tea on it. And like that entire quest, you could just cut out of the game. It does not matter. And when
Now
I
when you
say
say
iced
iced
tea,
tea,
I don't mean the beverage.
I forgot. We gotta yes, iced tea is in this game.
Yeah, he plays a stuffed AI teddy bear named Balex.
I know this game takes place years after Borderlands, 2, but fuck, god damn, I hate Tiny Tina. I can't. I cannot with the older Tiny Tina. I can't do it. I
Well, now it's
cannot
just
look at
Tina.
her. I shut up. It's so stupid. I know she's gotta age. I'm just butthurt about it, and it just I don't know.
She
I wish
also
she
plays
kinda
a
kept.
significantly smaller role in this. Like she has like 5 or 6 side missions, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think that and the fact that they kind of made her a little bit more reserved and not as, like,
Like she's still nutty, but she's not nutty anymore.
nutty,
Yeah,
yeah. I and 2, like, her character in 2 is just amazing, and her DLC in 2 is amazing,
yeah, dude.
and
The
it just
fact that I still get like kind of emotional at the end of that DLC is crazy.
it is a very, very emotional DLC,
Yeah, but
and
we're
that
getting sidetracked.
we are, but that's alright, this is the this is the big one, we gotta beat the Sam Raimi episode, Keegan, we gotta but yeah, this DLC is just so much fun, and it's like it's this wedding, and it's set on this planet, and like Keegan said, from the opening cutscene, it sets the tone perfectly. It's like, oh, it's the wedding, and then it's like, oh, there's a cult there. That's
Yeah,
oh, there's a bunch of creatures and
Lovecraftian
nightmares.
horror is
Yes,
happening in front of me. They also give us the moment to reconnect with a former Vault Hunter from Borderlands 2, being Gage the Necromancer, who actually plays a much bigger role in this DLC than originally, like what I originally thought was going to happen. Like I thought she was going to
yeah,
show up, be like, "Yeah, I'm the wedding planner," and then she'd give you like a side quest or two. But no, it turns out that by the end of it, Death Trap is like a significant part of the DLC in terms of like progressing the story there. Which also, you know, Gage is attached to Death Trap, so hand in hand, they're connected.
you mentioned Death Trap.
Okay. Okay, so side note, side tangent, we have another achievement from the list of trophies slash achievements that pissed Mikey off.
And now you
Uh
can't lie, this one didn't piss you off just as bad. This one was
it didn't
stupid.
piss me off, but it was kind of tedious. That's all I
Why is this a trophy? Is what I
so
want to
yeah,
know.
so by the time that we got to this DLC, we were already level 72, which is the level cap in the game, and we were playing on Mayhem 3. Mayhem difficulty basically adds it so that you get higher tier gear in the end game. So there is an achievement called was it it's we had the note. Hold on. It's
I just blacked it out, my bad.
why would you do that?
I've been blocking them out as we're talking about them. It's a good one, babe.
Good one, babe. Which is for getting watching Death Trap kill 50 enemies And by the end game, at level 72, Death Trap doesn't do that much damage. So it basically ended up with us shooting a couple of bullets into some targets and hoping to God that Death Trap would just walk up and just swipe them and kill them. It didn't work out like that. I
No.
think we got to a point where we had 25 or so of the kills required.
25.
And then we're like, fuck, there's no way we're going to get this. We're too close to the end. Death Trap gets an upgrade. And in the final,
Christ.
like one mission right before the finale, you have to escort Death Trap. And we just sat there and watched him just eviscerate like 25 enemies in front of us. And we're just like, yep. And then like there would be a section where he'd like get stuck, and I'm like, fuck, please don't do that. And then he starts moving. I'm like, yes, we're getting there.
The most frustrating part was when you'd be lighting up an enemy and then, like, you would have a weapon that would do some kinda elemental damage because like, almost every weapon does something of some
Yeah,
kind,
by the time that
some kind
you're
of an
by the time that
effect.
you're in endgame, all of your weapons are elemental. So like you'll shoot an enemy and then they burst into flames like, no, 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 don't burn, don't burn, don't burn.
What do I do? But, yeah, that was frustrating, but it was nice to see Gage, and she gets a lot of character in this. I really like how a lot of the missions are structured in this, and a lot of the side quests. It's really everything is kinda just
Yeah.
revolved around planning this wedding, and then shenanigans ensues while you're on these missions.
It also gets this really great thing where you don't have to return to Sanctuary 3, run to the other end of the ship and talk to Lilith and listen
We
to her
forgot
speak
to
for
mention
5
that.
minutes and then go to your next quest.
We completely forgot to
Yeah.
mention that.
Um yeah, so again, we're going back and forth. We're off track again, but this is neat. This is necessary. We have to talk about it.
This is necessary.
So, after each main story mission in the base game, you get a task where it says, talk to Lilith. To talk to Lilith, you must go through the loading screen of returning to Sanctuary 3, where you spawn in the back of the ship, where you then have to go across the entire ship, up a floor, down a long hallway, to then talk to Lilith, who will then speak your ear off for roughly 3 to 7 minutes. And this happens every single main story mission.
Yep.
Why can't Lilith just talk to me over the Echo device like every other character?
I don't know, and I'm glad that that's something that they got rid of in the DLC. There's nothing like that. Like that mirrors that in any of them, and
Yeah.
and to me that shows that in 4 they're not going to do that horse shit again.
No, they've
Hopefully
already
not.
discussed for 4 that they're going to kind of the Vault Hunters are going to be the main characters again.
Good,
Yeah.
very good.
At least
Uh,
that's what they've said for now. Always change.
well, they need something
Yeah.
because that movie was trash. Um, but
God damn it, Eli Roth.
it's not the spoon that bends; it is yourself. So only only the visual listeners are gonna get that one,
Yep.
or viewers. Um, that's okay. Little perk there for you. Um, yeah, this DLC is great, and the ending of it, I'm not gonna lie, I got a little emotional. I thought that the ending was very well done, very well put together. Spoiler alert: they get married. It's what the whole DLC was setting up
Yep.
for,
We
and
did it, guys. Gay marriage.
we did, we did, and we actually did oh, what do you call that? Where you're the one doing it. You're the one saying the shit to the
Oh yeah,
couple.
yeah. We officiate the wedding.
Yeah, officiate, that's the word I was looking for, yes. I couldn't think of that word, but yes, we officiated the wedding. It was great. It was a great DLC. I absolutely loved it. The fights were fun. The creatures were fun to kill. Hammerlock and Wainwright were hilarious. That's the other thing too. All the humor in this DLC lands. It
Yeah.
feels like this was an expansion from 2.
Yeah, there's even a great part like early on in the DLC. Gage is like, "Hey, I need you to give Claptrap a side quest so that he's not in the way for the wedding planning." And throughout the main story, you'll get progress updates where Claptrap's like, "Yeah, I just talked to this guy. He gave me a rock or something stupid." And there's even a section during one of the missions where you have to meet up with Claptrap, and the mission task says humor Claptrap, like just let him get his thing out. But the thing that's hilarious is you get to the final mission where Claptrap comes back and he gives you one of the best artifacts in the game.
Yes, it is so fucking funny. I laughed my ass off when he drops it. I was like, "Dude?" He just drops it on the ground. He's like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I found, by the way. It's just this great gear." You're like, "Uh?" That is the humor that I loved in the second one, the Face McShooty quest, that kind of, like, stupid, immature, but it just hits so
Yeah.
well because it's so dumb.
Yeah, that's
Like,
the big
like you said.
thing with Borderlands' is humor is like people will like take one of the dumbest jokes that's available, take a 5 second clip of it, put it on Twitter and be like, this game fucking has aged like milk. And it's like this is a 5 second clip from a game that takes 30 hours to beat. Like
Exactly. The
there
dry
there
humor, I
there's
think.
jokes that land and there's jokes that don't land. Humor is subjective in that fact. Like some people were like the face McShooty quest is stupid. It's like it's a quest where a guy tells you to shoot him in the face. You shoot him in the face and you get fucking money for it. Like what?
Not the knee, not the arm.
Yeah,
In the
like
face.
that is you can't tell me that that isn't funny in the moment, even if that is like, oh, that's such a 2012 type humor. Like yeah, it is, but it's still funny.
It is. It is still funny to this day to me. I love that quest. Every time, I talk to somebody that doesn't know anything about Borderlands, I always show them that quest because
Yep.
I think that quest is a perfect summary of what Borderlands is. It's this goofy, stupid humor, but it's got that looter shooter aspect to it, and it's I don't know. I love that, and this DLC really does. It feels straight out of like the past. It feels like they're kicking it back into high gear.
Yep. Definitely a good um change in that aspect. The only thing that I will say I'm not necessarily a fan of for this DLC was well, it's okay at first, but it gets very annoying later on. The character they introduced, I can't remember his name. It's I can't remember what it is. Basically, he's like this tribal warrior guy that says slash instead of fight.
Oh, yeah,
And
fuck that guy.
he's fine at first, but it gets it the joke it's not even a joke. It just gets old fast.
Another new well, I don't know if this was a new character. I'm pretty sure it was. The bartender.
Yeah, yeah. Mancubus Bloodtooth.
Yes, he was the opposite end of that, where I wish we had a little bit more of
Yeah.
him. He sounded like, if anybody in here has seen the, Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, he
Oh,
kinda sounded a
Dr.
little bit
Barber.
like
Yep.
yes, he sounded like Dr. Barber.
Wasn't he voiced by one of the Game Grumps?
He was,
Yeah.
because I thought it was Dr. Barber, and we Googled it, and it was one of the game groups,
Yeah, that's
which is
crazy.
awesome.
That's actually hilarious. Um, but yeah, overall, it's a great DLC. Um, there really isn't anything I can complain about in any way about it. Uh, Overall, like boss fights were good. The story overall is good. I like the horror element of it as well. Like they really lean into that uh
The
like
Lovecraftian occult.
Lovecraftian occult horror, where literally the final boss you fight inside of a giant tentacle monster and you destroy its heart. Like that's
Yes.
so fucking cool.
It's metal as hell. It is awesome. I love this DLC. Um, whenever we get through, talking about the 4 main expansions before we talk about designer and, director's cut, we're gonna, rank them, just, to let everybody know that we will be ranking these, the DLCs, um, at the end. We would rank them alongside the base game, but everybody knows where the base game would be, so there's
Yeah,
no point in
yeah.
doing that.
Honestly, director's cut and designer's cut might be over the base game.
I like the podcasts.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give that over the base game. I did like the music in the podcast.
Arms Race was pretty bad though.
Yeah, but that was just the other one.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so we move on to the third DLC now.
Yeah, this one, all you.
Yeah.
You take the reins, buddy.
So this one is very I want to say it's very original for Borderlands, not necessarily in the fact that like they've done the Western theme thing already. Like the entirety of Pandora is basically a Western setting, but having another planet where it's full on Western, like cowboy, small town, saloon, it's basically its own small little Western story, and I absolutely loved it. That being Bounty of Blood. Um, Bounty of Blood, I don't know why it resonated with me so well. I think it's mostly because I grew up, you know, kind of being a fan of westerns and watching a lot at a younger age. But it's just like mixing one of my favorite genres being that kind of sci-fi theme that Borderlands has, and mixing that with a western is just so cool. It's like cowboys and aliens, but instead of aliens, you're fighting like prehistoric dinosaur-looking monsters.
Yeah, and I thought that the DLC was cool. I liked the villain a decent amount in the DLC, and I did really like the Western kind
Yeah.
of
They
gunslinging
even
aspect.
they even add in a bit of like Japanese kind of design to it as well. Like the main town from the DLC has like a lot of the structures are like Japanese temple designs while also being part of this Western themed town. And it's such an interesting clash of architecture, but I love it.
I agree, and I really like the narrator. I want to talk about the narrator for this
Yep.
DLC a little bit because that is something that I just remembered that when we were talking about the rankings earlier, I completely forgot about the narrator,
Yep.
and he adds a lot to this.
Yeah, absolutely. They add the narrator. Oh my god, one of the best jokes in the DLC. You're going through this mountaintop that has a bathhouse at the top, and you're going through it like normal, killing enemies. You get to this boss at the end, and just before you get to the boss, the narrator says, "People didn't know it at the time, but this day would go on to live in infamy, known as the slaughter or the bathhouse massacre." And and we're just like, huh? The
I literally
what?
I went, he said the what? The Bathhouse Massacre.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Like and he says it so nonchalant, like it's no big deal, totally fine.
Though they didn't know it in the moment. Like,
Yeah. We also encounter a side mission with a character who loves soap named Sudsy Steve. Or is it Soapy
oh,
Steve?
Soapy Steve. I
Soapy
did like Soapy
Steve.
Steve.
Yeah, and basically he's just like, yeah, you're gonna punish me by making me take an even more luxurious bath. So we're just like shoving like soap and bubble bath solution into his bath.
I forgot that was in the CLC. Yeah,
uh
this DLC does also I would say it take that humor of 2 again, and it lands. It lands really hard. The Soapy Steve quest is fucking hilarious.
yep.
Did
Uh
you ever Oh, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
This is off topic slightly. I was just gonna ask, did you ever do the goblin quests in Tiny Tina where you have to like you have to like get the, like put the makeup on the goblins and like you have to go and get the bra for the goblin and stuff like that?
I don't remember that one. I
We
may
we
have done it. I might be blanking at the moment.
we'll have to do like a completely fresh if we do Tiny Tina, we'll have to do a completely fresh playthrough.
Yeah.
That side quest is just ridiculous, and that Soapy Steve one kinda reminds me of that because it just keeps going and going and going and getting more
Yeah.
ridiculous, but it doesn't get old. It just gets more funny and
Yeah,
more
I think the
stupid.
best part of that Soapy Steve quest is the last thing you add is like the character that you're helping with the quest. He's like, "Don't add all the bubble bath solution. That's too much." And your character just puts the whole thing and it's like, "I'm sure that's not a problem."
Oh my god. Yeah, this, what so with the story of this DLC, is it what do you, is there anything else you wanna talk about when going, like, deeper into it?
Yeah, sure, we can. So, a lot of the kind of story setup and everything is they keep talking about the company, which they try to make it very like suspicious, like who's the company, but we're in a Western themed DLC. We obviously know it's the Jacobs Corporation that they're talking about. But basically, there's this gigantic rock in the center of town that we don't know it yet, but it's actually an egg for one of these dinosaur creatures that they call devils. This one being known as the Ruiner. And we're introduced to our villain early on, who we don't even realize is the main villain until we get into town.
Yes.
Her name is Rose, and she tames devils from a young age. So her goal is to steal the giant egg and be the person that controls the Ruiner, which is oddly similar now that I'm thinking about it to how Handsome Jack wants to control the warrior at the end of Borderlands 2. I'm sure that's
Kind of,
nothing.
but there's, like, I mean, she's got, like, a gang of the Devil Riders
Yeah.
and things. It's more akin to, like, riding through the town and whatever. And, yeah, it's really, really early on, that you get introduced to her, and again, as Keegan said, you're not introduced to her as the villain yet, not until you get into town. You start talking with the sheriff, you do a little bit of stuff, and then when she reappears, she immediately kills the sheriff when
Yeah,
she reappears,
she
does she
shoots
not?
him in the hand and then walks up to him and point blank shoots him in the chest.
Yeah, and kills the sheriff, immediately, whenever she reappears, introduced as the villain, and it is a really cool DLC, in that aspect. It is very much a Western. It
Yeah,
starts off like a Western, you're introduced to this bad guy, the big bad rolls into town, kills the sheriff, the new sheriff's in town, the Vault Hunter, you and, you do your thing, and I think it works really well.
yeah.
It's one of the more I would say it's one of the more simple DLCs in terms of its story, but I wouldn't say that's a fault of it by any means. I would say that's actually a positive of it.
Additionally, by the end of this DLC, we gain infinite cowboy wisdom and become McSmugger.
This is true.
um,
Oh,
but I mean, overall, it's not that long of a DLC, really. I think it's
no,
probably the shortest. No, no, Krieg is the shortest for sure, but
Krieg is the shortest.
I'd say it's probably the second shortest then. But
Yeah,
I love the locations. I love the like kind of story aspects and how they kind of lean into the Western theme. It's very enjoyable. It's a very simple story. It doesn't overcomplicate things in any way. Um, it's just good.
I agree. Um, do you wanna hop into Psycho Krieg and the Fantastic Fuster Cluck?
I think just before we do that, I do want to
Okay, you got
mention
one more?
something.
Go
Not
for it.
pertaining to the DLCs or anything, just in overall, across this entire game, the music absolutely fucking slaps.
Oh, yeah, the
Uh,
music is great.
like locations sound like the music for the locations is great. The music for bosses are great. Especially, we did this one earlier today. We were doing the Bloody Harvest event and we fought Captain Haunt. Captain's Haunt music is so fucking good.
It is really good. It is really good. The music for Borderlands 3 is very, very good, which sucks when you're playing through the main story because you wanna mute the, audio, but you don't wanna mute the music.
Yeah.
Because some of the music, even throughout the main story, still slaps,
Yep.
and I agree with that.
The only thing I feel like we lose is Pandora's music doesn't sound like Pandora's music anymore, but that's all I can really about.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. When when we're moving into the final DLC, as, Keegan was telling me about it when we got into it, this was the one that, me and him both, experienced for the first time. He had not you had not played through this yet, just, like, the first
Yeah,
part of it,
I
right?
only played maybe like the introduction before you get to like the actual beginning of it.
So, this one was kind of a, blind playthrough for both of us, and it's an interesting one, because it was developed during the pandemic. The last expansion in Season Pass 1, um, but, it is a great DLC. It takes, one of my favorite characters from Borderlands 2, Krieg, who is a psycho that, the movie butchers, ruins him. Anyway, um he is different than the other psychos. How psychos work in Borderlands, for those of you that don't know, are they're kind of just deranged people with these masks, and they scream just the most insane things like, "I'm gonna wear your arms as a hat," something like that, and they run at you and
Rip the flesh,
scream.
salt the wound, all that.
Yeah, stuff like that. But Krieg's different because he does yell those things, but he also has this like inner part to him where he's sane.
Yeah,
There's a sane
it's
part in
a
his brain.
it's like it's kind of like the Hulk, where Bruce Banner's trapped inside while the Hulk is on the
Yes.
outside.
Yes, but there is no switching. Sane Krieg is permanently on the inside,
Yeah,
and he can't really come out as much as
as
he
Bruce Banner puts
tries.
it in Thor Ragnarok, it's like I was tied up in the trunk.
Yeah, yes. And this DLC is very interesting because it doesn't take place whereas the other DLCs take you to new planets. This one isn't really a planet. They shrink you down and they put you in Krieg's brain. And you are exploring his brain looking Tannis basically sends you in there because she
She
believes in
wants
this
to
thing called
study.
Valhalla.
Yeah, she believes in Valhalla that all of the psychos believe in, um, and kind of what ends up happening is like that is the end goal for us as the Vault Hunter. But what we're kind of end up doing in our goal to achieve that is Krieg, sane Krieg, basically wants to depart. He wants to be separated from Psycho Krieg. And that is kind of where our story takes us. Where at the end, Valhalla is what we're aiming for, but we're also kind of sorting through this trauma between some of the trauma shared by Sane and Psycho Krieg and some of the trauma split between the two. One having one experience and the other had different one.
And another thing with this DLC, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, because it takes place in his brain, the side quests are very unique.
Yeah.
Um,
They're also, some of them are very short, and I don't know if that's because they were trying to be like, here's like a really quick like humorous moment and then we're just on to the something else, or if it was a limitation due to being produced or developed during the pandemic.
I feel like it's probably a little bit of both, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it because
No, because
this DLC
some
went
of them
by
were
very
very
quick.
very interesting, very fun, where like one of them is like you stumble upon so there are like astral projections of Sane Krieg and Psycho Krieg, kind of like an angel and a devil on your shoulder type
Yes.
situation. But basically, Psycho Krieg is trying to put his buzz axe to rest. Um, and you basically you put it in the ground, and then Psycho Krieg demands that you give a eulogy. So your character is stumbling through. It's like I didn't really know this buzz axe, but it was pretty cool. And you like they just stumble through it, and then he says something off the wall, and then Sane Krieg just says, "You've lost eulogy privileges."
I love it, and I love that they give a majority of the side quests, and while the story develops, here is the saving grace for Maya, because her character is trashed on in Borderlands 3. Maya and Krieg's relationship is allowed to foster in his mind. Even though she's gone, he still has this projection of her in his mind, and you
Yep.
get to see the relationship that the two of them had and how much he's hurt from her being gone. And that's the thing with the DLCs. The DLC, all four of them in some way have some kind of heart
Yeah, some
and
emotional
humor.
attachment. That's another thing too, not necessarily just for Maya, but for some of the other characters where we see it where Krieg has these projections of an evil Mordecai, an evil Brick, and an evil Lilith in his head, where he kind of hears them say these very like mean comments, things that he thinks that they say about him and believes are true. But when you fight them and like purify them, and Sane Krieg is kind of sits down and talks to Psycho Krieg and says, there are friends, right? None of them would actually say this about you. They care about us. That's such like I love that moment because it's not necessarily just like it's kind of Sane Creed kind of showing remorse and sympathy for his psychotic half.
Yeah, and it's real shit. That line is real shit. I'm just gonna say it. I mean it. Yeah, that's it. It really is. I forgot about that line until you just brought it up. Now it fucked me up all over again. Thanks, Keegan.
Yeah,
Uh, um,
that's
but
what I do.
the the final boss for the DLC for this one is really fun too.
Yeah, it's
I would say it's
a
my favorite of the DLC bosses, just because it's really cool looking.
yeah.
I don't
It
know if you'd
takes
agree.
it's like a gladiator pit kind of thing too. It's kind of cool.
It's just a giant psycho.
Yeah,
It's really cool, and, I like that this DLC really brings back all the psychos as the villains again, because that's who you kill throughout. As a looter shooter, of course, you're gonna be killing enemies in the brain. You're
yeah.
not just walking around.
It is
Um
a quick side note that I want to bring back from the Handsome Jackpot DLC. Something
Mhm.
about fighting loader bots again, like in Borderlands 2, so much fun. I don't know what it
Yeah, and
is
they
about the
look
loader
great.
bots, but they are just so much fun to fight.
They looked so much better too.
Yeah,
They looked amazing. The texture of them looked so much better, and I like the sound design of them even more, and the different, like, variations of them. I really like the loader bots.
yeah. But to get back on track with Psycho Krieg, the DLC, this is as a result of you know, presumably a result of the pandemic and the development being done at home for most people. It is significantly shorter. I'd say it's probably only about 2 hours long, maybe. Uh,
Well, we went for everything, so I'd say it's because we went for everything, it's about 3 and a we spent about 3.5 hours with it.
yeah. But if you were just trying to like play through the story, get the main story, don't really care about anything else, it'd probably take you about an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe two and a half, depending.
Yeah, it's
And
not
that
very
it's
long.
nothing against it. Like, you know, it's still a fantastic DLC for what it is. It has some great heart. It has some great moments. We also get some closure for Krieg in a way with Maya's death. Through having their, you know, we get this line of dialogue towards the end for Maya, who basically leaves a message for Krieg saying, I know that like when I left Pandora, I told you we'd make contact again at some point, but I'm not sure if I can keep that promise now. And that's because Maya, uh, doing research onto Sirens, knows that she isn't going to be around that much longer. So she kind of has that moment of she said, I believe she says, no matter like what happens, no, I'm still here, which is
Yeah.
it's a really good moment for a character that got absolutely disrespected in the main story.
Yes, that's what I like about this DLC is it patches that part of the game very well, and it, puts some respect back on Maya's name, so to speak.
Yep. So we almost forgot to mention that we've made contact with all of the former Borderlands 2 Vault Hunters because we forgot about
Yes,
Zero. The
in the
only
main story.
ones that aren't included in any of the DLC or main story in a physical way are Axton and Salvador.
They run the arms race.
Yes, which I suppose it's time we discuss the director's cut and designer's cut content.
Before we do that, do you wanna do our rankings of the DLC?
That's a good call.
Okay. So for the season pass one, going from my least favorite to my personal favorite, we have Bounty of Blood, Mad Moxie's Handsome Jackpot, Psycho Krieg and the Fantastic Fustercluck, and then Guns, Love, and Tentacles.
And as for mine, it's a little different. So mine are Psycho Krieg and the Fantastic Fustercluck. While it isn't my favorite, I still love it. It is still very good. Then I have Guns, Love, and Tentacles. Then Mad Moxie's Heist of the Handsome Jackpot and Bounty of Blood. And as I mentioned, Bounty of Blood isn't really connected to the rest of the story. Like characters from previous games appear in each of the other three DLC, where that doesn't happen with Bounty of Blood. And I think that lets it breathe a little bit. It just gets to be its own thing.
I agree, and I actually think that it's I don't think it's a bad thing that our lists differ so much because I think it speaks to the fact that all 4 of the DLCs are quality and that there's something in them for different people,
Yeah.
and that all 4 of them, I would say that we both love all 4 of them.
Yeah,
We
they're all fantastic.
they
I
are.
like if I could like go back and play them for the first time again, I would instantly in a heartbeat. Now as for the main story, I wish I could forget it.
Me too. Me too, and I think that's the great thing about the DLCs because it does actually feel like 4 really great stories that you can connect to. Like my first and second, I connected very, very much and I related very, very much to Guns, Love, and Tentacles, and I really, really connected. I felt like I was able to connect with Krieg, which was a character that like
Yeah, you wouldn't think that you could connect with a character that his first lines of introduction in his character trailer being "I'm the conductor of the poop train." You
exactly.
didn't think you could connect with that guy.
Exactly, and they make it so easy. With the DLC. But yeah, that's the main thing I think that I want to highlight on. Despite our rankings being different, all 4 of them are fucking phenomenal,
Yeah,
and it just
absolutely.
comes down to like personal preference, honestly, over quality. I would say because they are all quality DLCs.
Yep.
Um, let's talk about the director's cut and designer's cut.
Okay, so there's one good thing and there's one mediocre thing. So uh the Mysteriously podcast that you do with Ava starts out with just this idea that everyone wants to do a podcast on paranormal activity, and it's such an interesting way to do it. But the locales that it takes you to, like it takes you to Eschaton Row on Promethea, which is just this, it's like an apartment complex type thing with a canal running through it. The music in the area is fantastic. It makes you feel like you're in like you're in an episode of True Detective. You're just going through and it's got this jazz beat. It's very entertaining, very fun. And then you get to the end of the first one where the guy that committed a murder goes to jump across the train track and just gets splattered by the train. and A was just like, uh so what about the paranormal aspect? And it's just like I don't know.
I really liked I really really liked those DLCs. I think that they channeled like that kind of noir energy really well and having like a touch of horror to it.
Yeah,
I,
it
I thought it was
also
done very well.
sets us up for the sequel.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
The final one is it kind of, so you're going through this like ancient ruin at the end, and there is a this character that keeps repeating stuff that happens from the main story. So she says the twin apostles must be stopped. We must revert, or we must redirect the path, or whatever, something along those lines. And it's like she's talking about the Calypso twins here, obviously. And then you get towards the end, and she says the twin apostles are no longer a problem. The key has been lost, talking about Elpis, the moon, being sent away, and that getting back on track is no longer possible. And it sets us up for this part of this new part of the story where we're basically like, you can't control us. We don't know what the Iridians are or what they want, what they're doing, but I think we're gonna find out in Borderlands 4.
Yeah.
But overall, in terms of execution for the Mysterious Lear podcast, it starts out as good fun, and then we get like a legitimate teaser
Mm,
for what's to come, and I think that's actually really cool.
I agree. And the other thing that we're going to talk about just a little bit is there's this mode added in the director's designer's cut called Arms Race, which wore off real quick because of a stupid achievement tied to it.
Yeah, it's there are some really great legendary drops that you can only get through playing Arms Race, and some of those legendaries are like the best in the game. However, if you go in and you're just like, I want to get these legendaries and I want to go play the game with these legendaries I just got, it's great. It's awesome. You get the chance to go get some loot really early on, especially if you want to start a new character and do mayhem levels, and jump start mayhem 11.
Mm.
However, if you're like us and decide, yeah, I want to go to 100% of the achievements or trophies in this game, um, you will hate it because there is a achievement that is tied to specifically extracting 100 pieces of gear from Arms Race. But here's the catch: if you are playing with a friend, the host will progress that their task for getting 100 extractions, but anybody that has joined the host will not get it. You have to play it on your own or have them join you while you host, which is
Yeah,
just
it's so dumb.
absolutely ridiculous. Because that means, because we played probably 8, 9, 10 runs probably before we even found that out, which means that one of us was getting a lot of progress and the other one wasn't getting any.
Yeah. Yeah, that is dumb, and it's especially dumb because that's one of the only, things in the game that is like that. Because you earned the achievements for everything else that we did, right?
Yeah, every single thing.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
It's one of the only ones that was not shared for some odd reason.
Yeah.
The director's designer's cut also comes with cosmetics, who cares? And, some, like, content that is, like, deleted scenes,
You
bloopers,
also get access
bugs
to
fixes.
the fourth skill tree for all 4 Vault Hunters as well, which, as stated before, 3 of them are really good. The fourth skill tree for Flak is garbage. Don't use it.
I think that's about all I mean, there's, like, a couple of raid bosses and stuff that
Yeah, we
the
did 2 of
designer.
the raids. We didn't do um the what's it called? We did the Malawan takedown and we did the end game raid boss that you get in every Borderlands game, which was it's just a giant Varkid. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't need
but
start
we
with a K.
yeah. But we did those. Those were really fun. Very enjoyable. And if you're playing on Mayhem 11, is a great test of your character build. And then we didn't do the last raid, but we did every single thing else. Um, we did everything pretty much. We finished like 2 hours ago. We'd finished doing everything 2 hours ago.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for the Prime.
Thank you for the
AFK Gaming
Prime
24.
sub from AFK Gaming. Appreciate that.
Um, but yeah, we literally just got through it, and that being said, we only have 2 achievements that we didn't get to throughout, like kind of discussing it, and that is might be on site for destroying 50 iridium piles and rewards card for getting a loyalty package from each weapon manufacturer, which both rewards card is understandable to an extent because it forces you to play with all of the different weapons manufacturers. The only problem is the progress is insanely hard to track with those weapons. So
Yeah,
you have no idea what weapon there's what 8 manufacturers, right?
9.
9. There's 9 manufacturers. To get a loyalty package from them for this achievement, you have to earn 100 kills with a weapon from that weapon manufacturer.
Yeah. Additionally, there are also some manufacturers, like me personally, I don't really like to use COV weapons or Tadior weapons. They're my least favorite of all of them. So being forced to use one just to get an achievement is very not fun.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree because there are weapon types that I don't enjoy either, and it just and again I get it's forcing you to play in that specific play style or whatever, but it is very very annoying, especially going for 100% and having to try and keep track by hand. Like, okay, I have this weapon manufacturer's package. I have this weapon manufacturer's package. I have this one. I need this one, and this one, which
Yeah.
means I need to use this gun, and this gun.
Additionally,
Which
my achievement progress tracker on Steam was broken. It said 1 of 9, and I was like, "There's no way." And I picked up a TDR weapon, got a package for it, and I was like, "That's the one I was missing." I don't know why, because I got the package for the COV one, and it went from 1 of 9 to 8 of 9 instantly. I was like, "The fuck?" so so then I picked up a TDR, got the thing for it, and the achievement popped, and I was like, that was so fucking stupid. Why was the tracker saying 1 of 9 when I definitely have all the other ones?
yeah, it
And it's
I had
impossible
issues
to
with
track it in
the
game too. Like there's no tracker. I'm pretty sure it's just what 100 kills and then you get an item sent to you.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's no way to track that. So you just kill 100 things and wait.
It, yeah, it is so it was that was one of the most tedious parts. The other one was destroying 50 mysterious iridium piles, because it's mysterious iridium piles are these, like, translucent piles of iridium that show up. It's just a dumb
Yeah,
farming achievement
there
that
was
you
no reason to add that achievement into the game.
no.
Like the only thing that you could have told me was that there was invisible iridium piles, and I would have been like, "Oh shit, that's a thing." And then they attached an achievement to it for some reason. Like, why?
I
It
don't
just
know.
doesn't make any sense.
That was another mistake, was that achievement, and then that was just those achievements that we ran into why is this an achievement? The location ones especially, which we touched on earlier, that one felt very frustrating when going for 100% on the
Yeah.
base game.
A big thing with that is like, first off, the question as to why is this an achievement? There, you don't get an in-game reward for discovering unnamed locations. At most, when you first discover a location, you get a little bit of XP, and that's it. So why is there an achievement attached to me going around this entire planet? And additionally, some of the locations, like we'll have a thing where like the progress tracker says 5 of 6 locations on this one map, and it's like, what the fuck? And then you go to this one very specific spot of the map where it's like a 1 by 1 foot fucking like square, and you step on it and you discover the location. It's like, why is this location this fucking big? And like I could put a pinky toe on this thing and not discover it on accident.
Yeah, it's there was this one. Remember that one? I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was like that little tiny part of that rock crevice that like went
It's a
off to the side.
waterfall. It's a waterfall
That's
on
what it
Eden
is.
6. You have to walk up to a waterfall on this cliff face, and that's a location. This waterfall that takes up 0.2 feet of this entire wall.
Yeah, with all of those like those gripes though and everything, overall, I would give this game like a solid 8.5 or a 9.
Yeah. Like overall, like the main story brings it down a lot, but
Yes.
then the DLC brings it back. The DLC plus the magnificent gameplay brings it back, and I would say it still sits at an 8. The only thing that sucks is doing repeat playthroughs, but Gearbox last month put out a patch that made it so once you get to level 72 with a character, you can now skip the main story and start a new character at level 72. You no longer have to do a full grind to get to max level. You can just get to max level, grind out the gear that you want, and play endgame content. You don't have to start over and be like, oh, I want to play a Siren now, and then have to play an entire Siren playthrough just to get to that point and suffer through the god awful story again.
Yes, and then that way you can also just start right into the DLC, which is the real meat and potatoes of
Yeah.
the story anyway.
Which they do also have a level 13 skip. You skip to level 13 and you can start the DLC, any DLC that you want immediately, which is also a great addition.
Yes.
If you still want that early game level up grind experience.
That is the other thing I will say is positive is the post-launch support for all Gearbox games is normally pretty good,
Yeah. I
especially with, like,
will
even just little
say,
things.
so this is very off topic for me to talk about really quick. So
Okay.
when we started playing this game, I was playing the Epic launcher version of the game, which I got back in 2019 when I got the game originally. Um, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with the Epic version of the game, but I switched to the Steam version of the game halfway through, and all the bugs that I was encountering just stopped. Like there were bugs where like the audio would stop. I wouldn't hear gunshots, or I wouldn't hear dialogue anymore, and I had to do a full restart of the game and load back in for it to fix it. I switched to the Steam version of the game, and that never happened again. Never. What the fuck is different between the versions of the game? As far as I could tell, they're identical.
Yeah, Epic version doesn't have achievements though.
It doesn't have achievements.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, considering that Epic does have support for achievements and the game launched with achievements.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Epic had achievement support for the first 2 years or so, if I had to guess. So maybe they just never added it. I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
work for Epic, so
uh, but yeah, all in all, I would say that Borderlands 3 is a pretty solid game, and I think that the pressure is on for Gearbox to kind of deliver a better story with 4. I don't even know how much more tweaking they really need to do with uh the gameplay of it, because the gameplay in 3 is pretty great, and they tweaked it even more to like and refined it a little bit more for Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So they
yeah.
just keep improving it slightly. The only thing they really need to work on is hiring some competent writers for the main story.
Yeah. Additionally, when it comes to end game content for the next game, don't do what you did with Mayhem mode, where you just add modifiers to make the game harder. It just makes it more annoying. It's not like the modifiers aren't fun. That's why I suggest playing on Mayhem 11 where there aren't modifiers.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, is there anything else that you want to talk about with this game before I wanted to talk about a little bit with the pod whenever we're about
Okay.
before we do any kind of an outro.
I just want to know what your thoughts are on like the future of Borderlands as a franchise. Do you think that 4 could be the make it or break it? Do you think that 4 has the potential to be better?
I think that 4 will be better, because I don't think 3 was bad, and I don't think a lot of people would say that 3 is bad. In fact, it got even the base game got 9s from a lot of reviewers. It sold decently well. Tiny Tina didn't, but Tiny Tina's a spinoff.
Yeah,
Tiny
I also
Tina's different.
don't it did not get the marketing that it needed, in my
No,
opinion.
it didn't.
It was much more obscure. Like the thing that I think kind of draws that down too is that when you think about Tiny Tina's, uh, if you don't know what Borderlands is and you're just like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, what the fuck is that? You're not gonna play it.
You have no idea.
The only
So,
people that are going to play Wonderlands are people that played Borderlands, and that's
yes.
not counting the people that were disappointed by Borderlands 3 and didn't want to jump into Wonderlands.
Or people that didn't want to play a Borderlands that was somewhat of a fantasy game.
Yeah.
Uh, and the overworld for Tiny Tina, I know we'll if we do it, we'll probably talk about it, but it is a little off-putting to some. I don't mind it, but some people do dislike the overworld for Tiny Tina.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so those are our thoughts on Borderlands 3 for our official return, our official season premiere of the Mixed Media podcast coming
Welcome to
back
season 2,
after.
baby.
Yes. Um, so some stuff on the horizon. I don't want to say any ideas other than the ones that we had already kind of talked about. I just did want to say that me and Keegan do have a lot of ideas. We haven't just been sitting around. To be quite honest with you guys, for the last 3
We'll
months,
have
every time we're in a
exchange
call.
where one day like you'll be at work and I'm like I got ideas. I gotta list these right now, and you're like go for it.
Or we'll be in a call and we're like, "Yeah, we should do a podcast," and then we, like, come up with an idea. So we do have plenty of ideas,
Yeah.
and,
Not giving away anything that we're working on or potentially will work on, but we have like 4 or 5 Google Docs with some notes for down. So
yes, yes, we do, and we have some things in the works, so it won't be another, 7 months before the next episode. Um, it'll be a much shorter, duration of time, so definitely look forward to that. make sure you guys follow the Twitter, the Discord, the YouTube, the Twitch, the Spotify, uh, the X Hamster, all of those kind of places. Did I leave any out?
I don't believe so. I went ahead and linked the socials in the chat there for anybody that's watching live right now. So you can follow the Twitter, you can join the Discord if you haven't already, and just keep in contact. Whenever we make announcements or updates about the pod, they'll be listed on there. So that's pretty much all we got there in that regard.
And yeah, just again, be on the lookout for another return episode in the near future, and we will see you guys in the next one.
And thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
Hell yes.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll see you guys soon. If not, I don't want to put any definitive dates on it, but let's say within the next 2 weeks, perchance.
Perchance. Can't you
Perchance.
say perchance?
I did. They're gonna have to live with that. But
Thank you guys for watching.
that's everything from us. You all have a fantastic day, night, evening. And if we don't see you, I don't have anything.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, well, we'll see you
Anyway.
eventually. Drink your water, take your meds.